We are a lot more familiar with these rookies now that we've had time to dive into their film, look at their analytics, get some updated bakery scores. We're going to give you these rookies now in our second version of our rookie rankings, and let's see how it plays out this time. Let's start with the S tier here. Let's start with the only guy that's going to be in the S tier probably this entire draft process, and that's going to be Ashton Jeanty. Nothing's really changed here, and again, I said this, I don't think it's going to change. I think Ashton Jeanty is the 101 in Dynasty Fantasy Football, and I think, even Ted McMillan with a good combine, even Luther Burden with, because we're expecting Ted McMillan to get top 10, top 15 draft capital. We're expecting Cam Ward to get top 10, top 15 draft capital. We're expecting some of these running backs to get late first or early second draft capital, right? As long as Ashton Jeanty goes where he's projected, I don't think you're ever going to have anybody jump into the tier, because the fact of the matter is, from an analytical standpoint, from a prospect standpoint, from a film standpoint, Ashton Jeanty is still a tier above everybody. So, similar to, the Bijan year, the difference with the Bijan years, you did have somebody else jump up in that tier. It was Anthony Richardson, and it's because he was the most athletic specimen of a quarterback prospect we've ever seen. And you just don't have that in this year's class. There's nobody with that potential. Jalen Milroe. Oh, yeah, I don't think anybody's saying that. So Jeanty's going to be in the S tier probably by himself from now until we draft our rookie drafts. That's just what I think. But the A tier has changed for us a little bit.
Yeah, so we obviously in the last wide receiver rookie rankings video, we were toying around with the idea of putting Luther Burden over Ted McMillan. Again, in the same tier, so it really could go any way. We're putting Ted McMillan and Luther Burden back to back here at the top of the tier. Again, for the same reason, flipping them to show you that, again, it really could go either way. And there are good reasons to have one of them at the top of the tier versus the other. We've already alluded to Ted McMillan and what his ceiling could be. He quite literally has a Mike Evans level ceiling. From a production perspective, he's demonstrated it at Arizona in college, and we think that is translatable to the NFL because other guys that have had like the size and the speed profile like he does, like a Quentin Johnston, he's just better than those types of guys because his traits are better, he's more well-rounded, and he's not as raw. Right. He's actually like refined some of his characteristics. So look, I think that of all the wide receivers in this class, aside from Travis Hunter, who is a unicorn, I think that he is the only one that does have a potential to go top 12 to 15, or really top 12. And then Luther Burden, again, are going to be right behind him. Higher floor guy that's going to be running exclusively out of the slot. Probably not going to be drafted to be a true alpha wide receiver, but in the right situation, basically in a non-Raven situation, he is going to be an absolute freaking target hog. So again, don't be miffed by the lack of production this season because of what was going on in Missouri. It was unfortunate to see. I wish that he had produced more. It took a lot of work for us to finally realize that, hey, Luther Burden really shouldn't be knocked too much because of his lack of production this season, and all you had to do was really just dive deep into the film.
I've got people in the comments saying that Luther Burden's Calvin Austin because of his production profile. Guys,
it's not really comparable in our opinion. So let's still give Luther Burden the respect that he deserves, and that is a potential to still be the wide receiver one in this class. Possibly. Yeah. So I'll let you take on Hampton.
Yeah, and so, both of these running backs, we talked about these running backs recently, and we talked about where we had them ranked, and really what you'll remember is we had Caleb Johnson ahead of Amari Hampton. And again, they're in the same tier, so I don't care. I will fight you if you say that they're in different tiers, because I will die on the hill that they are in the same tier. However, I am going to just switch them around for the sake of this video, and just for fun, because I do think there is a possibility that Amari Hampton ends up above Caleb Johnson.
In fact, there is a good chance.
I think there's a good chance, because when I'm looking at Amari Hampton from a trait standpoint, from a film standpoint, I would give him the slight edge on Caleb Johnson, just on a couple of intangibles that running backs need to have, making defenders miss, horizontal and lateral quickness, things like that. I think Amari Hampton actually takes the cake from Caleb Johnson. Now, we talked about this analytically. Caleb Johnson, very, very good. We talked about his bakery score. He's actually in the same tier as Ashton Jeanty, and a ton of that is because of his production profile. But really, the only hits you see him get, the only thing about a little below an 8, yards per carry, elusivity, and then yards after contact per attempt. So I think, I think they're both great running back prospects. I think you could switch them around any way you want. I think there's a good chance Amari Hampton goes higher, but at the point, we'll back off a little bit on the Caleb Johnson propaganda. He's still amazing. We still think he's going to be very, very good in the NFL. If you start to try to bash Caleb Johnson, I probably won't be very happy with that. They're both really good, and I think they both belong here. I'll finish out the tier with Cam Ward. I'm not going to be super kind now to this quarterback class. Yes, it's a super flex league. And keep in mind, the context here behind, us saying this, we are the quarterback guys. We've always been the take the quarterback in the super flex league guys. Always. Ever since we started making content, and we still are those guys. The problem is with this quarterback class, I really don't see it with anybody outside of Cam Ward. Now, Cam Ward, I think he does have some good traits. I think he has traits that NFL teams are looking for. I think he's got good poise inside the pocket. I think he's got a decent arm. I think he can create out of structure a little bit. I think he's an appealing prospect, and I think he's almost a lock to go top 5. I definitely think he's better than Shedeur Sanders by a pretty good margin, in my opinion. But again, this is just our opinion. With Cam, I could see him go anywhere from 2 to 7, depending on what the draft capital is of the skill position guys in front of him and what their landing spots are. This is probably worst case for Cam Ward. I guess he could possibly slide out of the top 5. But in a Superflex league, there really is only one quarterback I'm interested in this year taking in the top 5 or 6, and it's Cam Ward. And we'll get to Shedeur Sanders and talk about him. But this is just a weaker quarterback class. It's also a strong class for running backs. And when those running backs get that draft capital, they are propped up here.
And this is the perfect time for those running backs to be propped up, because the running back landscape right now in Dynasty is thirsty for a ton of valuable running backs. So everyone's just we're just gonna take him by default.
100%.
But I will add with Cam Ward, don't overplay his rushing capability.
No.
Again, let me highlight his rushing capability, not necessarily certain what his actual rushing upside is, because this is more of a testament to how solid, in our opinion, of a passer that he is. He's very good and out of structure. He likes to extend plays, but he's also very smart with the ball. He has good pre and post snap reads, and he's very mature because he is a 23-year-old prospect and has developed in such an unprecedented way. So don't be surprised if he kind of underwhelms a little bit from a rushing upside perspective, even though he is so athletic, because he will utilize his receivers and he'll try to push the ball downfield. At the top of the B tier, we're going to have Emeka Egbuka. You guys know how much we like Egbuka. Again, very similar to Burden in terms of floor. He has probably one of the highest floors at the wide receiver position in this year's class. And with all that to say, I do think that Egbuka's ceiling is kind of capped from where he can be ranked in the 2025 rookie class. There's only so high he can go in terms of how the market is going to view him. Our hand's just going to kind of be forced, and he's probably going to be forced to stick around this range unless his draft capital is way higher than we expect, but we expect probably mid to late first round. He might even fall to early second if we're lucky, and then he'll be a really good value. But with Egbuka, expect another slot wide receiver guy who's going to be a really great second option, hopefully in a good enough situation where he can get a decent amount, a great amount of target volume. And then it's just a matter of where's his usage going to be, hopefully less between the 20s and more in the red zone. It's just, we're going to know more with landing spot later.
Yeah. And I talk about Travion next. Travion, somebody who with the last couple games in the college football playoff, I feel like he's really increased his draft stock. I think people are really seeing the playmaking ability, the playmaking ability in space in particular that Travion Henderson would bring to an NFL team. I think there's a better chance than not that either Henderson ends up there with Hampton and Johnson, or he swaps with one of them. Because Henderson, I really think when I'm looking at Hampton, when I'm looking at Johnson, when I'm looking at Henderson, all three of these guys are the 3 guys behind Genty. But, does Henderson actually deserve to be in the A tier? How many? 1, 2, 3. Heck, we could move Henderson up if we wanted to.
We could.
I don't. Why don't we freaking just put him up there then? So, we're talking about Henderson late now, but...
sorry, Sherry.
Sorry, Sherry. Sorry, viewers. You're going to see him in the A tier. But I do think all of these guys... all of them have the capability of being the 102 in this year's draft. I really do think that in Dynasty Superflex rookie drafts. Henderson, again, he's got the pass catching ability, but he's a good runner. He's good in space. He's athletic. He's got good size. I could see him having as much upside as almost any running back in this class. And so he's had a really big value bump. And honestly, really excited to see this running back class. I'm really excited about Travion Henderson. I've always really liked Henderson. I liked him last year a lot. I was kind of overly high on him compared to everybody else in the community. I think he's better than he was. I think he got better at Ohio State. I think he went back and he got better, and I think he's going to be a good NFL back. I think he's going to get a lot of opportunity. And
his pass blocking, his pass pro.
Oh my god, yeah, no, he's gonna be on an NFL field. I'm telling you. So really like good. Henderson. We obviously moving him up in real time. So then our next favorite player.
Yay, Travis Hunter. You get to hear me talk about him again when I just talked about him last video, and I'm going to say the same thing. He is the best talent period that we have ever seen in the NFL ever. So get used to Travis Hunter being this high. Again, let me just restate, I cannot reinforce how important this is for you to understand. We are not in the business of predicting whether Travis Hunter will be a full-time corner, full-time wide receiver, 50-50 split, 70-30 either way. We don't know. What we do know is that he won the Biletnikoff and was truly one of the best wide receivers in the country this year and even the year before. If he gets any more than 50% of snaps on the offensive side of the ball, then he at least belongs here. So there you go. Again, I had to repeat myself.
And also Tyler Hunter or Travis Hunter watches the channel as well. So
yeah,
shout out Travis.
And every time he sees us, he says, "Wow."
He says, "Wow, look at those guys. Look at them
guys.
go. Look how good their content is."
Yep. Wow.
Last guy in this tier is going to be Tyler Warren. I actually had Colson Loveland in this tier as well. Nathan opted to move him down. I'll let you talk about the differences between those two guys when we talk about Colson. Yeah. But I'll talk about Tyler Warren because we're both Tyler Warren guys. Tyler Warren, from a production standpoint, like, I don't know what else you wanted to see from him at Penn State this year. The offense was literally funneled through them. It was a combination of Penn State didn't have any good receivers. They have one of the worst receiver rooms in the college football playoff, if not the worst. And Tyler Warren was so good that even if they did have receivers, they were going to funnel their offense through Tyler Warren because he's that good of a talent. He's the #1 tight end in the bakery. The difference between him and Colson Loveland is a lot bigger than the difference between Colson Loveland and Harold Fanta Jr. So it's worth noting that when you're looking at the overall all-time rankings for the bakery and looking at where Tyler Warren falls in there, he'd currently be #8 all-time. He'd be behind O.J. Howard, Noah Fant, David Njoku, T.J. Hawkinson, Evan Ingram, and Kyle Pitts and Brock Bowers. So, up there. Colson Loveland, though, in the bakery, he would be number 10. So they're pretty close, and Trey McBride's between them. And so Tyler Warren, just from a production standpoint, I'm a big fan. Nathan is a big fan. We have him as our tight end 1 in this class. I don't think that's going to change. Obviously, extremely talented, extremely good analytical profile. He's got good size. He's athletic. I don't think there's a ton not to like about Tyler Warren. He's going to round out the B tier here. So all of these rookies, all of this information, all of the bakery scores is all available to you in version 2, soon to be version 3 of our 2025 Dynasty Rookie Draft Guide. You get that Rookie Draft Guide. You also get a team blueprint where we're going to give you your team archetype, give you your 3-year outlook, and even maybe give you a little bit of tips on who you should be drafting in your rookie draft if you're a heavy pick team. We're going to give you all of that information and more for free with the annual Motherflocker tier. Like I said, you get all the site tools, you get the Rookie Draft Guide, and you get the blueprint. Not to mention, annual Motherflockers are going to get an updated blueprint every single month with their trade targets, positional grades, roster tier, etc. So flockfantasy.com/domain. Make sure you use code domain when you sign up. Like I said, the annual tier is going to unlock all of this. Best value, it's like $8 a month. It supports us directly, and we can put our money back into helping make products like this, like the Rookie Draft Guide, to help you win your Dynasty rookie drafts. So flockfantasy.com/domain. Let's jump to the C tier.
Shedeur Sanders is going to be at the top of the C tier. He might be a guy that becomes a little more polarizing the further we get into the offseason. I think one of the biggest knocks on his profile, again, the size, the athletic capabilities, the arm strength, all that stuff is not really in question. It's just how much are we going to knock him for holding onto the ball for so long in an offense where the offensive line really was never that great while he was playing there. So we can either make the offensive line excuse, or we can say, like, hey, is he going to continue on this trend at the NFL level? Is it going to knock his potential draft stock? I will say, all of that aside, which your opinions on that, regardless on what side you're on, are valid, because I see both sides. The reason that he's going to be multiple tiers below Cam Ward is that I truly believe that even though we think that the rushing capabilities and upside of Cam Ward might be overplayed, they still are more present than what Shedeur Sanders will be showcasing, I think, at the NFL level. Again, I could be wrong about that, but there's just enough knocks on his profile with holding onto the ball and the fact that he doesn't have a ton of rushing upside that you're probably not going to see him go as high. He's not going to have the upside, regardless of what his draft capital is, compared to Cam Ward. And that's why he's going to be at the top of this C tier. It's just not the strongest quarterback class. So again, I like Shedeur Sanders. I think I like him more than most people do. Another nice thing about him is that if he goes top 5, which he still has a good chance to go top 5 right now, is he will have name value. So you will at least see him go, again, no higher probably than the mid-first, but he has a chance to go mid-first, maybe falls back to the late first because of his prospect profile. But again, with Sanders, we don't love him. We don't hate him. We're just trying to be a little conservative with him right now.
We have him graded as a first-round Dynasty Superflex prospect.
As he should be, yeah. He's going to go first round, and there's plenty of teams in the top 5, even the top 10, that will be more than happy to take a shot on him. And I will say this: I would much rather take a shot on Shedeur Sanders than I would Anthony Richardson right now.
I actually 100% agree with that. I think he has a way higher floor.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Quinshon Judkins, the other Ohio State running back. But I don't really like to dive into his analytical profile and bash him for his production metrics because he is splitting that backfield. Him and Travion both have a little bit below average production metrics, and I think that's because, again, they're splitting carries almost right down the middle. What Quinshon Judkins is good at, he's good at a lot of things, but what he's really good at, he's a fast guy. He's got good size. He forces a lot of missed tackles. What he's not good at, he wasn't very efficient when he had the ball this year. Not efficient at all, actually. His elusivity rating is low. Even though he forces a lot of missed tackles, his yards after contact per attempt are very low, actually, and his breakaway run percentage is low as well. It goes along with the elusivity rating. So a different type of player than TreVeyon Henderson, but one with workhorse size, workhorse speed, and I do think he's talented enough to be a guy that goes day 2, day 3, gets good draft capital, and ends up, he could be a guy that goes in the late first of these drafts. I wouldn't be surprised to see Quinshon Judkins go to a place in the 2nd or 3rd round that actually needs a running back pretty bad, and we're like what if Quinshon Judkins gets drafted by the Raiders? We'd be like, oh, I mean, shoot, he could have touches there right away. Hell yeah, and there's so much situational as you go further and further down the list for running backs. But Quinshon's, in the bakery, the running back 6, and honestly, he'd be the running back 5 now because Nick Singleton is out. That really freaking sucks. I was starting to really like Nick Singleton. Never forget, we like Nick Singleton, but while everybody hated him, and then everybody started liking him again after the playoff. Never forget, we never gave up on you, Nick. But Quinshon,
true fans,
we are true fans. Good prospect, Quinshon, and I'm interested to see I'm interested to see where he ends up, honestly. So, DJ Giddens is the next guy on this list. We're big DJ Giddens guys. Actually, at this point, everybody's a big DJ Giddens guy. I realize that our take was very quickly not original anymore, which is sad because we genuinely did watch the tape, genuinely did look at his Baker score, and genuinely did say, hey, we really like this guy. Yeah. Really, the main knocks against his analytical profile, again, really solid across the board. The breakout age is a little bit less, which I'm not really worried about with him at all. His BMI is not great. I'm not really worried about him at all. So when you're looking at his bakery score, we've got him in the bakery right now as 4th round draft capital. You give this guy 2nd round draft capital, and he jumps up to the running back 5. I think it's just a matter of the bakery is really taking into account. He's also, got a 4.55 40 time in here. I think this is a guy that really could analytically rise, and honestly, I love his film. Again, don't forget, we were DJ Giddens guys before it was cool, but unfortunately, everybody's kind of in on the secret.
No secret
now,
anymore.
So no secret.
Yeah, Alec. Oh, I get to talk about Alec again too. He's probably he is kind of my guy right now this year again, pending the medical stuff. But I still think that a lot of stuff that he showcased on film is very, very similar. Not as elite as Ted McMillan, but very similar. His contested catch ability, his long speed, even after the injury stuff that he struggled with, and just how physical he is and where he gets his opportunities, specifically in the red zone, just is a recipe for really nice stuff at the NFL level. So if he gets good draft capital, which I expect him to, and I expect him to move up boards as we get further into the offseason, I think this guy is a diamond in the rough, and not even in the rough. I think some people are catching on as well with him, but I am going to move on to Colson Loveland as well, because we haven't talked a ton about this tight end class because we don't do tight end exclusive videos. I know you guys can tell us in the comments if you want QB and tight end stuff for the rookie prospects this year. There's just not a ton of them, but with Loveland, he is the 2nd guy in a class that is a very, very solid tight end class. We really don't have an issue with Loveland at all. I think his traits are incredible. I think he is a really, really good true tight end, and he could eventually be one of the elite level guys in the NFL, with some of these old guys kind of fading out, like Travis Kelce, George Kittle eventually, Mark Andrews, all these guys. Colson Loveland is the next guy up, and I do think down the road he's going to be a significant riser. He just, to me, kind of screams someone who's going to take a little bit of time and might be eased into his role from a receiving usage perspective, because he is such a true, well-rounded, true tight end that is going to line up on the line. He's going to be utilized as a blocker. He's a big dude, and he is going to be kind of schematically dependent as well. Like a lot of the usage that he was getting in the receiving game wasn't necessarily his route running prowess. He has a lot of work to do from a footwork perspective. I don't think he's as talented there as like Tyler Warren is and just dominating in the short to intermediate game.
No.
You kind of have to draw up Loveland and find like open zone spots for him to get the ball and then do stuff after the catch. So again, he could come on a lot quicker than we expect, but I do think a guy like Harold Fannin, who we have in this tier as well, could be just as productive, if not more. And I think we just trust Tyler Warren getting Brock Bowers-esque usage right out the gate because he's so ready.
Yeah, and it really is relative to, the amount that both of those teams were throwing the ball. Michigan tend to run the ball a little bit more. Actually, his dominator ratings are actually pretty high above Tyler Warren's, surprisingly.
Yeah.
Now, the one thing to your point about Colson Loveland and Tyler Warren, again, both good prospects. We're going to like both of them. Colson Loveland is not even 21 years old yet. He is the youngest prospect in this class tight end position by far.
There's no rush with him at all.
He's definitely I love that Brock Bowers and Michael Mayer ended up on the same team because they're such different types of tight ends in today's NFL.
Right.
He's definitely a Michael Mayer guy more than he is a Brock Bowers guy. Like 100%.
He's a better Michael Mayer.
He's a better Michael Mayer, which is crazy because Michael Mayer was a good prospect as well. So that's to say something about Colson Loveland. We really do like the guy, even though we have him a tier below, and he could easily be a first round pick. What if he goes to the freaking Chargers? I think he's a first round pick. I just do. Jalen Royals. Somebody said, okay, if Jalen Royals, everybody's talking about him, he's not really a sleeper.
You're
Fact
right.
check, true. And in reality, it's kind of hard to have sleepers in Dynasty today because everybody talks about everybody. We've gotten to the point now where we're freaking talking about, all of you guys are such degenerates. We're sitting here and we're talking about guys ranked in the 40s in the bakery. I'm like, geez. So
and you're already asking us about the 2028 rookie class.
Right. So, you're right. He's probably not a sleeper. He's the wide receiver 6 in the bakery. We project him right now with, that's with second round projected draft capital, which I don't think is, I don't think it is that far-fetched. We have a new feature in the bakery called the build bakery and the separator and the type. So, it kind of goes like this, and this is our first example of using this. Jalen Royals, he's typically lined up out wide. He was, at least in college, where his usage was. I would say he's still a hybrid, but he's a prototypical Z, which that actually makes more sense. He's elite target earner, and those are the guys that I like to. That's the separator type that we like to see. So, we'll get into more on that. But Jalen Royals, he has good analytics. We really like him. He's somebody we're really high on, but at this point, everybody's high on him. So we're not original. And then Harold Fannin, we just talked about Loveland. Harold Fannin actually had just as high a dominator rating, if not higher, than Colson Loveland. He had the best receiving metrics or production metrics out of the three. Later breakout, obviously.
And Bowling Green.
Probably going to be a little bit slower. He's not going to be the most athletic guy by any means. And that's really the knock. Can you have a guy like Harold Fannin come in who's not as athletic as somebody like Tyler Warren?
You wonder if it can translate to the NFL when he was just dominating at Bowling Green.
There's also that. He's playing at Bowling Green, the athletic. But again, we're giving him his respect. We're putting him in this tier where he could be a first-round pick.
We like him a lot.
Again, there's a lot. This tight end class is really good, guys. 3 tight ends so far, and we're through 17 prospects. I should tell you a lot.
Upwards of 4 or 5.
It's a really good tight end class, honestly. So, all right, D's tier. I'll let you start here.
Yeah, so with the D's tier, we're going to start with Jackson Dart. This is kind of, again, Jackson Dart is going to be all over the place because no one really knows much about him yet. Here's what we do know about him. He is a gun slinger. And someone might take a shot on that at the NFL level. Now, someone who we've seen recently in the past couple of years who also had a really, really good arm with some potential questions was a guy like Will Levis, who was originally mocked super high, ended up falling. With Jackson Dart, I think that it is going to entirely be dependent on what the noise is coming out of the combine because he's going to do a lot of stuff there. This is us kind of just acknowledging it. I don't even know if in future rookie rankings videos that we have him as high as we do right now. Maybe we raise him up a tier. We honestly don't really know at the moment because we're just kind of waiting on what some NFL scouts are going to be saying about a guy like Jackson Dart, who is admittedly intriguing right now. So in a super flex league, got to give him his respect because I do think that he could be a riser. I was talking about my guys earlier with Alec at wide receiver. Jordan James is a my guy, hands down, at the running back position. I think that you've heard us talk about him in the running back rankings video previously. If you haven't already, you can check it out. But with Jordan James coming out of Oregon, one of the biggest knocks on his profile and why you're not going to see him ranked as high as he, in my opinion, could be regularly is because Bucky Irving was in that backfield last year and you had there being a split there. Jordan James gets significant usage, bell cow usage this year, and he just literally runs away with it. Ultra efficient. Not a ton of receiving usage, but he was very explosive when he did get the usage. So I don't think it's can he be a receiving guy? I think it's more how often can he be utilized as a receiving guy, because I think he's very much capable of it, and very, very explosive. I love his downline speed and his lateral quickness as well. So keep an eye out on Jordan James. I think it is much more likely that he rises up a tier or two than fall from this point. We are, in my opinion, ranking him at his floor right now. So again, being conservative here, pending draft capital, I think this guy is going to be a big riser after the combine.
I probably think you're right. And again, I think he's an R guy. I like him too a lot. I think you're absolutely right on him. Trey Harris, going back to wide receiver here, another guy that, again, he's an older prospect. He's a redshirt senior, but his analytics are pretty darn good. And that's with third round draft capital. He's the wide receiver 5 in the bakery. Now, when you're looking, again, he's got pretty good receiving metrics. He has one of the highest dominator ratings of anybody in the top 5 for wide receivers in this class. He's also, very efficient. Yards per out runs up there. His 40 speed projects to be pretty high as well. The height adjusted speed scores is good as well. It's really going to be draft capital and landing spot dependent for Trey Harris. I believe in Trey Harris a lot, and I honestly think that he is somebody that could be overlooked a little bit going into this year's class. Again, he had 1,000 yards this last year, and he's 6'5", 212 pounds. He's another bigger guy, but I do think he has good speed. The problem is, again, with bigger guys, especially big older guys, it's like, we really just don't know how it's going to translate. And so we'll kind of wait and see on that end. But with Trey Harris, I mean, again, I think he could be somebody that he's kind of that mid-tier of wide receivers. Now we're kind of going to try to wait and see who jumps up here. So, and then we're going to finish out this tier here with 4 running backs, actually. Cam Scadaboo is going to be the first one. Right now, he's like graded as a second in these rankings, and I think his ceiling is probably somewhere in the second. That's just my opinion.
It's definitely a ceiling.
Yeah.
For sure. He ain't going first.
Yeah, that's I mean, like first in rookie drafts, you mean, right?
No. And
then the NFL draft, there's no chance he goes first.
Draft,
I think his ceiling is probably early second in like dynasty rookie drafts as well. But running back 7, running back 10 actually in the bakery. Again, production wise, everybody's seen this guy. Everybody's seen him play. Everybody knows he's super versatile. It's just a matter of his elusivity, his efficiency, things like that. He's a bowling ball. He's 5'11", 215 pounds, and it's going to be very landing spot scheme dependent for him, just like it is for any running back. Devin Neal, somebody that I moved up a little bit relative to the other running backs in these rankings, just because I've always liked Devin Neal. He's kind of always been my guy, and so I'm like, well, I mean, heck, if I like him that much, then why don't I call my shot on him? Again, this year, 1,250 yards on 219 attempts, 16 touchdowns. Not to mention 24 receptions for 254 yards. It's just over 10 yards per reception, which is above that mark we like to look for. He's the running back 11 in the bakery. Again, he really is good with the production profile. Yards per carry, he's not the most efficient guy compared to some of the other top prospects. Elusivity is average. Yards after contact per attempt is a 3 out of 10. The breakaway run percentage is a 3 out of 10. So again, like, he's consistent, he's reliable, he's well-rounded, he's a disciplined runner, but he doesn't have really any elite traits. I think he's just a high-floor guy. Like, that's what he reminds me of. And so, I do think as a high-floor guy, though, you do have to elevate some of those guys. Ollie Gordon is more of a high-ceiling guy, but a guy that's been disappointing, a guy that, has, I think, a lot of upside. He's still the running back 7 in the bakery, but really, he's not very good in pass protection. He doesn't have super good lateral quickness. He's 6'2", 225 pounds. He's a big dude. He's not very efficient in the receiving game as well. He's below that receiving threshold we like to see, but he is talented. He is big. He does have good athleticism for a big guy like that, and so it's going to be dependent on who takes him and where they take him, just like any running back. We don't think he's dead, and again, we're putting him right here at the end of the second round. Same thing really with Dylan Sampson here. Again, Dylan Sampson, a good prospect with questions. Running back 8 in the bakery, and again, it's the efficiency really that knocks his analytical score a lot. He's good with jump cuts at the line of scrimmage. He's got a good spin move, so he's good at making defenders miss. He's athletic. He's explosive. He is impatient. He doesn't really, trust his blockers. He doesn't have very good vision, and he doesn't have a ton of receiving usage as well. He doesn't really showcase a lot of that, and I think that's again kind of a red flag for us when we're looking for guys coming into the NFL. But he's 5'11", 201 pounds, and again, he's only 20 years old. He had 1,400 rushing yards this year at Tennessee, so I think he's a good rusher. It's just a matter of whether that receiving game comes into play when he is at the next level or not. Again, another guy, draft capital, landing spot dependent. So yeah,
Jack Betch is going to be at the top of the F1 tier. We got the F1 and the F2 tier here because literally
it's a giant tier.
It is a giant tier. You could put any one of these guys anywhere you wanted to, and we wouldn't have an issue with it. So even though you see Isaiah Bond in the F1 tier, don't get mad at us because he's ahead of Matthew Golden, who's in the F2 tier. If you want to have Matthew Golden ahead of Isaiah Bond, which we might get to at some point anyways, you go for it. But with Jack Besh at the top of the F1 tier, again, a lot of Puka Nacua comps with this guy right now, but his yak is not quite at that elite level. But he is a guy that could be a riser pending solid draft capital. Isaiah Bond, more of an athlete with solid route running capabilities. We think maybe kind of sort of, don't really know. The production is not there. He will have to boost his draft stock and his upside with how he tested the combine. And then you got Tez Johnson, who's an older prospect, but he's basically like a diet Josh Downs, in my opinion. He's going to be a slot guy who is very speedy. He's small. He's going to make his money in a situation where they like to utilize their slot wide receivers consistently. He could be a Khalil Shakir. So Jaden Higgins is like the total opposite of that, right? He's a bigger body guy. He has had some really, really good productive years at Iowa State. We think that there's a good chance that he could get some decent draft capital as well, day two. Again, pending the right situation, this guy has, in my opinion, the talent and the ability to potentially take over a wide receiver room that's in need of a top wide receiver. So we'll see where he ends up going. Woody Marks is a guy that we haven't really known what to do with because he is so unique in terms of his skill set. He's a solid runner. He doesn't have like crazy vision or anything like that. And then obviously he's utilized as a gadget guy, a great receiving option as well. He's been in college for years, so he's going to be an older prospect. This is a guy that I do believe is so landing spot dependent. If he goes like Devon Achane going to the Miami Dolphins day two, that was everyone's dream landing spot, and it boosted up his price big time. I think the same is going to apply to Woody Marks, just not as high of a level because he is an older prospect and he's not as elite as of a skill set guy like Devon Achane was. So with Woody Marks, you can't really categorize him as an exclusive running back or an exclusive wide receiver. And I think pending the right landing spot, you're going to see him be utilized like he was in college, again, because he is so effective in that way. I just care how he's going to be used in the red zone. Then you got Brashard Smith here at the end of this tier. He's a running back that I do think just is going to have a lower floor than some of the guys that we have in the D tier, like Scattaboo, Neal, Gordon, and Sampson. Even if they get day three draft capital, you're going to feel pretty comfortable taking day three shots on them because their production profiles were so good in college and they do have really good traits. Brashard Smith does as well, but I do think that he's going to be, we're going to want better draft capital from him to be as confident in him as we are the guys in the tier above. So that's why he's going to be here at the end of the F1 tier.
Yeah, and so again, the F2 tier, if you like any of these guys, you say, oh, these guys should all be above the F1, do it. Because, again, I don't know. Like, all these guys, the point is, like, the F1, the F2 tier, all these guys have second round upside, in my opinion. The Combine and the draft, but the Combine's going to sort out a lot. A lot. We're going to know a lot more. Jarquez Hunter, a lot of people, relative to the other running backs on this list, we moved Jarquez Hunter up quite a bit. So I listened, I heard you. A lot of people said, okay, you're a little bit too low on Jarquez Hunter. He's actually pretty good. When I'm looking at his analytical profile, he's really not bad at anything. And his worst score in the bakery is a 4, and it's in the breakaway run percentage and the yards per carry. His production was good. He forced a lot of missed tackles. So there are some bright spots to his game. Yeah. It depends. If he weighs in closer to 210 pounds, I think the size will be okay. At first, I didn't know.
I think he's similar to Devin Neal. And
I think
he's very well-rounded, good at a lot of things.
I think he's well-rounded as well. I don't think he's elite in anything, and that's a downside. But again, he could be a high floor guy, so I moved him up. I could see Jarquez Hunter being a second round guy. Savion Williams, kind of the same thing. We have Jack Besh ahead of him, but he's a guy that we've even had to add to our rookie guide, and we'll kind of see with Savion Williams. Again, he had a really productive year at TCU. Matthew Golden, a lot of people have had the Golden versus Bond discussion. Who's better, who's not, who's looked better, who hasn't. Isaiah with Bond was hurt. Honestly, I don't really care. The Texas guys are just hard to analyze, right? They don't have very good bakery scores. When you're looking at Golden's bakery score, it's way down here. And the reason is they don't really use their receivers. Like Texas really doesn't use their receivers, because even with Golden projected at 4th round draft capital, he's still in the wide receiver 14 in the bakery, and he's being drugged down a lot by his dominator rating. His yards per out run, he's inefficient, and again, the Texas scheme kills efficiency of wide receivers, and so it's hard to analytically evaluate these guys. But I had somebody in the comments saying, well, actually, Golden, his analytics are really good. No, they're not. They're not, but analytics don't tell the whole story. On film, Matthew Golden could be much better than what we're seeing. So again, I will see with the Combine. Like Le'Veon Moss, I like Le'Veon Moss. He's a bigger guy, but he does have a lot of skills. I think he's very good. I think he has good footwork. I think he's good at making defensive defenders miss. Like I mentioned, he is a bigger guy, and you know, I think he has some limitations, but I ranked Le'Veon Moss fairly high just because I really like the dude. He's fast enough to finish big plays. You know, you see him get out on the open field, but for 6 foot, 215 pounds, I think he can beat the secondary, right? He has workhorse size, he has good contact balance. You know, again, 10 receptions for 141 yards this year, not really going to cut it. I mean, the efficiency is fine, but again, we haven't really seen the sample size, the usage, and then he does have injury and durability concerns. And so, I like Le'Veon Moss as a sleeper. I think he is actually a sleeper, but you know, you never know. Ty Felton out of Maryland, we've talked a lot about as well, skinny guy. We touched on him in the wide receiver video, but again, he's just another guy that I think he does have. I think he does have some upside. It's just a matter of, does he go to a team where, you know, they develop him well, where he's going to be put in a good spot. He's good with run blocking, so it could get him on the field at the NFL level. He's got good open field vision. He's a good possession wide receiver. Again, he's 6'2", 186 pounds. He's thin, but the physicality, who knows if it will bother him at the next level. I think, again, a lot of it's going to be coaching for this guy. Trevor Etienne we put on here, and you know, with Trevor Etienne, I think he's another high floor guy. I think it's going to be, unless he blows away at the combine and gets crazy like draft capital, I don't think you're going to see anything nuts. And then last guy here is Jalen Knoll. Yeah, we had ISU season ticket holders in our comments like, hey, like this guy's really like a lot better than you think, or hey, you guys clearly didn't watch. Okay, whatever. Like we did. You
might be right.
And you could be right, but like, it's not like this guy analytically, like, you know, and this does say something. It's not like he was on an offense. He was not like he was on a bad offense. He was on a fine offense. He's a wide receiver 18 in the bakery right now, and that's projecting him 5th round draft capital. If you put him up to 3rd, he goes up to 10. But even as the wide receiver 10, you're not talking about anything crazy here. His production profile is fine. Again, it's really just going to be dependent on his combine and his draft capital. Like, yeah, Jalen Knoll may be good. Again, we don't know. There's just a lot to learn, but we know more than we did. Like these rankings are formulated more by our opinion than anything. Whereas we get to the combine and as we get to the draft, it becomes more objective, which is what we like. We like to give you objective data. We like to give you objective things and not just, hey, this is what we think about guys. It's really all we have right now. So again, as the landscape sits, we've moved guys up, we've moved guys down, we've got a little bit of better idea. As you get closer, you figure things out more. We're still figuring it out. Interesting rookie class, tons of wild cards. It could end up being great. What if like half these running backs hit? It could be amazing. But what if none of them hit? It could suck. So you just don't know. Make sure you drop a like if you enjoy the rookie content. Make sure you're subscribed as well. Flockfantasy.com/domain to get a blueprint, get the rookie draft guide where we talk about all the bakery scores. The bakery is now posted on Flock Fantasy, so you can go over there, check it out. If you're a domain annual Motherflocker, the full database going back to 2017 with all these prospects, you see all of their grades. Appreciate you guys. We'll see you later.